I've been in business specializing in sales and marketing since 1980. I'm an executive coach, an international trainer and speaker, an author, a TV show host, husband, and father. Like many, I've experienced a freak accident and almost died from it. The impact from a hit to the back of my head dissected an artery in my brain, and a few days later, I had a significant cerebellar stroke. Since my stroke, I've been researching and seeking answers to many of the questions that come to light when you live through a traumatic event like this. I'll share what I've learned about living full out, how to prosper in difficult times. We'll talk about some current events, and always end with some inspiration and encouragement that you just might need at this particular moment. This is Scott Schilling Speaks. Scott Schilling Speaks is powered by Be Connected, the premier online hub for business owners and professionals to connect and collaborate for greater success. To learn how Be Connected will help you and your business, go to bkfreefor3.com. Hi, and welcome to Scott Schilling Speaks. I'm your host, Scott Schilling, and I'm really excited about today's show because we get to honor a legend. Today is Zig Ziglar's 94th birthday in heaven. And my guest today is, well, there's so many titles I could give him at the Ziglar Corporation, but I know the one that he's proudest of, proud son of Zig Ziglar. Tom, welcome to the show.
Scott, thanks for having me on. It seems like our friendship goes back so many years, and what a blessing to be on your show.
Well, thank you. And when I saw that it was your dad's 94th birthday, I mean, we have to honor such a great man. He's touched so many lives. How many lives do you think he's touched across his entire career?
Well, we estimate probably around 250 million, and probably more than that. It keeps growing. 45 books that he wrote have come out. Millions of audios have been downloaded and distributed. And of course, for 30 years, he spoke probably 30 times a year to an average audience of over 12,000. So, we say that legacy ripples through eternity.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true. I'll tell you how much it does. Now, I'm going to talk about the quote that's above your head there in a second. But here's what's interesting. As we were preparing the studio here today, there was another couple that had just finished a show, and we were talking, and they said, "Who's your guest today?" I said, "Well, the proud son of Zig Ziglar, Tom Ziglar." And she said, "That was the first book I ever read. And there was a quote in that book that changed my life forever. You can have everything in life you want when you help enough other people get what they want." And I said, "Now that's pretty crazy, because when I was 17, I read that same book, and that same quote is what put me on my path to today." How cool is that? I mean, you can't create something like that, right?
I know, and that is the most famous quote. It's everywhere. It's all over Facebook, social media. In fact, I see it on business cards. I see it under people's signature line on emails where they send out, because it's a philosophy that never grows stale, never grows old. When we're out there looking to solve problems for people, serve people, and help them get what they want, then good things come our way. And it's so easy to remember. And that was, when we talk about birthday, we talk about gifts. And that was really a gift that Dad had, was to take, sometimes complex or hard to understand things and make them real simple. And that quote sums it up.
Well, it certainly does. I was talking to a nonprofit earlier today, and they said, "Why are you so passionate about helping us?" And I said, "Well, I come out of the Ziglar camp. You can have everything in life you want when you help enough other people get what they want." And they said, "Isn't it amazing that so many people that have a desire to serve know that quote, live by that quote, and keep it going?" And I said, "Well, you do realize it's his 94th birthday in heaven today." And they said, "Wow, how cool is that?" Just to think of how many people he's touched along his life. I really appreciate our friendship, and I know I've asked you this question before, but I really want you to touch on it for our audience. What was it like growing up the son of Zig Ziglar?
Well, I tell you, I can't imagine anything else. I don't have a point in comparison, but I also can't imagine it being any better than it was, that any son or any daughter had it better than I did. It's just amazing. As good as dad was on stage, he was even better off stage. And, surprisingly to a lot of people, he was kind of an introvert. I mean, I think you probably saw that on the road.
Yeah.
You know, he had this button. He could just, flip the button or the switch, and he could be charismatic and come out and be a people person around a crowd. And he got energy from that. But when he was, on his own or with the family or with friends, he was, always engaged, always present, but a little bit reserved. And in the house, what that meant is that there was a lot of quiet times, a lot of quiet conversations, and dad just had this his belief exuded. And sometimes when you get a strong personality, that personality bleeds over and says, hey, I want you to do what I do. I want you to be me. I want you to follow in in my footsteps. And dad was a little bit different. He said, I don't whatever you want to do, I'm all for it. Just do it with 100% integrity and 100% effort. And so it was amazing that we got the support and the direction that we needed without that feeling of, gosh, I better do what he wants, because if I don't, he's going to be disappointed. No, he was happiest in his life when his children were living up to their potential and going 100% towards their goals.
I think that's so important, especially in this day and age. So many parents cast their wishes upon their children or live through them, and things like that. And I remember joking with you one time and saying there probably was no pressure growing up as the son of Zig, right?
It's funny because I had to deal with that. And I've probably shared the story with you, but when I first started speaking, which was about 12 years ago, it was uncomfortable. I didn't like it. My gut would get in the knots, and but when I would speak, it would it'd go good. There's something fantastic about sharing a word and having people respond. And after doing that for a couple of years, probably a year and a half, I was like, why do I get so uptight? And I realized I'd made a classic mistake, and that is I thought people wanted me to be my dad on stage. And that's not true. They didn't want me to be my dad on stage. They wanted me to live out the same philosophy, have the same character and integrity, but personal style and gifting, they wanted me to be who I am, the best that I could be with the gifts God gave me. And so once I realized that, there's only one Zig Ziglar, there's only one person who's going to run around the stage and kneel and, lower his voice and raise his voice and do what dad did. Once I realized that I don't have to do that, I just have to be myself, the best version of myself. That gave me a lot of confidence. And it's almost like once I figured it out, it was like I could look in the corner and just see dad smiling. It's like almost he knew, hey, I can lay the foundation. I can even give you a hint, but some things you're going to have to discover on your own. And that was one of them.
Well, I remember a time that we were on the same platform, or actually you were on the platform. I think I was just there watching, and you did a talk on legacy. And it was so powerful, and how you weaved a lot of this that we're probably talking about today into it. But I remember walking up to you because it was pure you. It wasn't your dad. It was you talking about what was important to you. And I just remember saying, there's your talk. That's you fully. And it was absolutely awesome. And it might have been around that time, right? I think it's pretty cool that you found your own message from that side.
Yeah, and when I was first starting to speak, I would just quote dad and other people constantly. And people would come to me and they'd say, hey, you've got your own stuff, use it. And that would bother me, not because I thought they were wrong, but because I just wanted people to hear the best message. And then over time, as you grow and you gain more knowledge and information and material, then you do start putting more of your stuff in it. And I had people come to me and say, "Hey, you write that you're the proud son of Zig Ziglar. When are you going to step into your own place?" And you know what? I'm still happy to be called the proud son of Zig Ziglar, because, gosh, what a legacy. And so I use that as a way to reach people. Here's what we do know: we're all going to leave a legacy. The question is it going to be by chance or by design? Is our legacy going to be intentional? And for the parents out there, if you've got kids at home, one of the things that dad did for us growing up is, he never complimented us on our natural gifting. Like if you were like really good at math, he said, "Oh, you're so smart in math." Instead, he would say, "Wow, I really love how you work hard." And because he was more into, we have choices and control over our discipline, over our character qualities, over our effort. And if we focus on those things, then you can grow into that person. Now, if you get complimented on something you have no control over, then that tells you that you either have it or you don't. And that's a dangerous place. And our culture, and this is where it leads to, our culture judges others and relationships based on performance.
Yeah.
And it's always based on, did you get the result or not? And dad never did that. He built his relationships on character qualities and on trust. And and if you asked him, what were his two greatest reasons for success? First, he would say character and integrity. And then second, he would say his work ethic, which he called persistent consistency. And so that's always been an encouragement to know that no matter who you are, what gifts you've had, what road you've been down, you can make a choice today that will take you in a better, more fulfilling path to where you want to go.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to get to your book here in a second, but you just reminded me of something. The last lunch that I was fortunate enough to have with the redhead, your dad, and your sister Julie, he pulled out 4 pens, and he said, "Scott, you know what this is about?" And I said, "No, sir. What are they?" He said, "You never know when a book is fixing to get written." It was one of those moments that you just, he was always the passionate learner and always the consummate learner. I know that he used to take a lot of notes on a lot of other people. So it was a passion for him, that work ethic and everything. Well, you took that, and then now you've got your own book, right? Choose to Win, right?
Absolutely.
And tell us some of the principles of Choose to Win. Why should people pick up that book?
The book came out last year, and it's really about this simple idea. You can choose to win. You can transform your life one simple choice at a time. And the anchor quote of the book, the thing that kind of said, "Wow, this makes the difficult, the hard, the complex, this makes it easy." I was speaking in Australia, and a gentleman asked the question, "What is the fastest way to success?" And I'll be honest, I was 50 years old at the time, and I'd never heard that question. It was always,
Yeah.
what are the keys to success, and what do successful people do? And so I was kind of stuck. And then I blurted out, the fastest way to success is to replace bad habits with good habits. We went to break. I didn't think anything of it. Then a mentor of mine, Steve McKnight, he introduced me after the break, and he told the audience, he said, "Hey, write down. Did you hear what Tom said? Write this down. The fastest way to success is to replace bad habits with good habits." So I wrote that down. I kind of did the double take, like, really? I said that? I mean, we all get that. I wrote it down. I Googled it that night. Nobody had claimed that quote. I claimed it. And then I started applying it to what we call at Ziglar the wheel of life. And the wheel has 7 areas: the mental, the spiritual, the physical, the family, the financial, the personal, and the career. So imagine a wheel, and it's got 7 spokes.
Right.
And so I started asking myself, is it true? If you replaced a little bitty bad mental habit with a little bitty good mental habit, would that get you closer to success? Would that take you in the direction of your purpose? And I went around and I asked that question of every spoke on the wheel, and the answer is yes. And so when you think of essentialism and incrementalism and the way life really works, it's not about deciding, I'm going to lose 50 pounds and then not eat for the next 30 days. I mean, that's not the way life is. The way life is you say, you know what, I want to have maximum health. I want to be as healthy as possible so I can get the things done in life that I want. And the way we get there and we change our life and we change our habits is we start looking at, okay, so what's something I'm doing that's keeping me from optimum health? And an example that I use often is, what if you drink soft drinks? What if you have one, can of Coke or Pepsi with sugar in it a day, and all you did was replace that with a bottle of water, and everything else was the same? Well, at the end of the year, you will have consumed 44 pounds less sugar, and you'll have lost 17 pounds.
Wow.
And it's such a small change, you don't even notice it, but it has such a huge impact over time. Well, what about mental? Same thing. If you're spending an hour on social media getting wrapped into all the noise, what if you cut that back to 30 minutes? And with that 30 minutes you just saved, you put some good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, and the positive into your mind, stuff that's going to build you. You don't even notice the change on a daily basis, but over time it changes your life. So that's in a nutshell what the book is about.
Well, and it's also that persistent consistency, right? I mean, isn't it interesting how many of us, and I'll claim it, okay, I'm in, you identify that habit that you'd like to modify, right? And you do it, really well for a good 3.5 days. And then again, life happens. And I think we're seeing so much of that right now because everybody's general routines have changed so much going forward, right? There's been the shelter in place and the not being able to travel and the not being able to do this and this and this. So people are learning new ways of doing things, and a lot of that is really positive. And yet some of it is, like you say, people now all of a sudden, they've got a reason to be on social media because it's in front of them. It's like they're just now taking that time that actually used to be productive and picked up. They've taken a good habit and gotten rid of it and put it in a bad habit. They're going in the wrong direction. And so how do we, is it a matter of self-policing, or is it an accountability, or a combination of all? How do you recommend all that?
It's all of it. And, actually the first whole section of the book, Choose to Win, talks about it. And that is, you have to know what your why is. What's your purpose? What's your dream? What's your vision? I call it discovering your why, or what is your purpose? And when we have a clearly defined purpose and we start creating the habits, and what I had this little coin, we got to do our PPAs every day. So what's a PPA? A PPA is a purpose producing activity. So when you know your purpose, then you can create the habits, the purpose producing activity that you do every day. That's what a good habit is. And when we get sidetracked, like you said, 3.5 days, I'm good. And then on the night of the third night or fourth night, the popcorn and the ice cream comes out. It's like, well, that's where you have to pull up your why and your purpose and go, wait a second, is this really important to me? And if it is, then you let that fuel you and get you through that tough time. Now in the pandemic, I'm loving it. Not the fact that people are sick and that people have lost jobs. I'm not for that at all. But what I am loving, I call it the silver handcuffs. Millions of people had silver, or I'm going to call them stainless steel handcuffs. That's even better. Okay. Stuck in a rut. Hey, I'm doing this because it pays the bills, and over time I've gotten pretty good at it. Is it my passion? No. Is it what I was meant to do in my life? No. Is it really what I want to do for the rest of my life? No. Am I going to go look for something else to do? No, that takes too much. I'm too comfortable. So I call those stainless steel handcuffs. Millions of people got sent home to work from home, or they lost their job.
Right.
And either way, they figured out life is uncertain.
Yes.
And as they started figuring out how to do life at home, how to have the kids in the background, or cramp into their bedroom to create an office, or whatever the situation was, they started asking themselves the question, is what I'm doing, is that really why I'm here on the earth? Is that my big reason for living? And of course, we got to make money. We got to pay the bills. I'm not talking about that essential piece of taking care of the financial, but what if there's more? And so people have had the time to reflect and say, if that's my dream, if that's my why, if that's my purpose, how do I move towards that? And so I've seen a huge uptake in personal development, in people growing themselves and learning and trying something new, getting coaches, getting mentors, attending online. It's like in the beginning, the Zoom world took off and everybody was like, this is crazy. It's not effective. And within 6 weeks, it seems like everybody adapted and said, you know what? It's actually better for some things. It's not better than face to face for all things, but I'm getting more work done. Corporate America's figured out that productivity's gone up for jobs that can work from home. There's 60 million hours a day of less time in commuting. 35% of that time is being invested back into work. There are more times with your family that you didn't have before because you're not going back and forth. People are figuring out, hey, my schedule can be a little flexible. I can run an errand in the middle of the day. I can take care of my kids. Is it the best case for every situation? No, it's not. But for so many people who've made the decision, you know what? And Scott, I like to, sometimes we group people into categories because it's just easier. But I say there's two kinds of people. There's the kind of people that happen to life, and there's the kind of people that life happens to.
Yeah.
And I've seen millions of people over the last 6 months say, you know what? Life's too short. I'm going to start happening to life. And so it's been a great awakening for many people. Is it perfect? No. Will it get better? Yes, it will get better. And here's the best news of all. The people who succeed in any time in history are the ones who get focused on solving the problems of their fellow man.
Yeah.
And if you look at that quote, you can have everything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want. So if you're watching this and you're in the problem solving business, it's the best time ever.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've done early. Somebody said, so how's everything around your world? And I said, it's awesome. I said, I don't get stuck on LBJ anymore. I don't end up in a meeting that somebody committed to be at that hasn't shown up. I'm far more efficient. I pick up the phone or I get on Zoom and I talk to more people. In fact, our sponsor, Be Connected, has launched an entire company based around connections. And while, again, same thing, wouldn't wish the pandemic on anybody, they're providing a solution in a time frame where it's absolutely necessary. And I think of one more thing. I know that I was scheduled to do the Ziglar devotional, your dad's most important meeting of the week, 7:30 on Monday mornings. And I was scheduled, a couple months into the shutdown and everything. And all of a sudden, probably about, they were being canceled because the office was closed. And then all of a sudden it was, well, why can't we do the devotional by Zoom? And I remember the day so those started that way. And the day that I was doing the devotional, we had somebody from, I think, Croatia. We had somebody from England. We had, all of a sudden, the Monday morning devotional that had been for years since your dad had started it, confined to the corporate offices in Dallas, Texas, all of a sudden had the potential to be received worldwide. Now that's a pretty good and awesome thing right there.
Yeah, Dad, gosh, he passed away about 8 years ago. In the end of this month, it'll be 8 years. And so he kind of, at the end of his career is when the internet and Facebook and Twitter and all these things started happening. And so that was something that he was just getting a glimpse of. And I remember us having a conversation a few years before he passed away. And he said, at the touch of a button, you can speak and reach as many people as I did in some years
Yeah.
when the face to face was the only way. I mean, just an amazing concept that we live in. And this I do know. There's some challenges. Today, if you're a leader, pre-pandemic leader, face to face leadership, the style and the way you connect is different than it is in a Zoom meeting. Does it mean that there's no more leadership in a virtual world? No, it just means that we got to do what we do best, which is adapt and grow and learn how to take advantage of the thing. I mean, if you are watching this and you are a top performer, I've got good news for you. You can work for any company anywhere in the world from anywhere in the world.
Yeah. That's an
exciting.
opportunity. Yeah, that's an opportunity for sure. The limitations, I think, to just think of Zoom as an example, having 10 million users in December, up to 500 million by May. I mean, all of a sudden the acceptance, number one, don't you wish you were part of that? But the other side of that is so many people recognize that a new way wasn't necessarily a bad way. Again, I totally, and I've said it pretty much on every show, I do not social distance. I physical distance, but I do not social distance. And that's something that I refuse to accept, because I'm probably talking to more people today, whether it be, through Zoom or by phone or whatever. I hardly ever text anymore. My emails are way down. Now I'm receiving a lot, but I'm not necessarily sending a lot. Excuse me, because I'm getting on the phone and I'm making sure that the social connection is there. Again, whether it be by Zoom or by phone, far more personal than even a text or an email. So again, I think you're right. Well, obviously not ideal, and there's all sorts of different issues going on. Nobody's trying to suggest there's not. But at the same time, Einstein said it, out of every crisis comes great opportunity. And that's really what we have right now. So how are you getting the message out at Ziglar Corporation through yourself and in this time? What kind of things are you doing that are probably a little bit different than the way you used to do it?
Absolutely. There's two things. Last year, the book Choose to Win came out, and we decided to build a coaching program where we would license people to coach using the Choose to Win content. And so we developed this licensing program. And for 3 or 4 years, people have been telling us, I wish you had something like this that I could do solely online, because it's difficult for me to travel. I live in Australia. I live in the UK, whatever. Can you do that? And so at the end of last year, we did our very first Choose to Win coaching program, and we sold it out immediately. And then we sold out the one we did in January. And then guess what happened? The pandemic hit. And it was the only thing we could do. And so we started having to make the classes closer together. So we literally finish a class and start the next one. And so I think God had his hand on us doing that. Now, the other thing that happened at the end of 2019 is, we've talked about legacy, is I was looking at our mission statement and I said, well, wait a second, what we do as far as supporting the individual with motivational, inspirational material and business owners and things like that. That's something that we do. But how are we different than we were, right? Because when Zig Ziglar's leading it, his strength of personality is bar none. I mean, the best in the world, bar none. You can never have a better spokesperson than that. Right. But he's not here. And but I know he's smiling because he's like, well, the message, the truth is the truth. And however you get it out, it's still the truth. And so I said, what do we do as a company? And so there's four groups of people that we really, really cater to and work with. And that is people who are intentionally building and designing a legacy, coaches, speakers, and trainers. That's our main thing. Why are we doing that? Legacy. So how do we help those people? We encourage, transform, equip, and support them to go change the world. I mean, that's kind of what it's about. And so what I get excited about at Ziglar is if you want to be a coach, if you want to be a speaker, if you are out there building a family legacy, I love to teach what we've learned to you, not just so you can flourish, which is awesome because you do, but so that you can teach that to other people. That's what legacy is all about. It's about transferring the knowledge, wisdom, and habits that allow someone else to become the person God created them to become. And so that's what we do at Ziglar. Now, if you want that, like Dad said, if you want the checkup from the neck up, if you want to get a book, if you want to listen to audio program, if you want to come to one of our events, we're going to love to have you, right? That's what we do. But if you want to go to that next level and then help someone else go to the next level, that's really what our focus is now, Scott.
Well, one of the things that was shared at Ziglar one day that I'll never forget, I think it was Brian, or it might even been Krish, it was a while ago, but saying that, you know, a river reaches places that the source never knows. And it really is that ripple, right? That it just continues down the way. We don't know, you know, who we affect. And like this show, for me, I teach it as high intention, low attachment. High attention, high intention of imparting something great here today, and a low attachment as to what you say, I say, anybody hears, whatever along the way, but that there's some purpose and meaning behind it. One of the things when you were talking about your dad again, it flashed back to a conversation backstage one time, and Les Brown looked at your dad and said, you know, we go from city to city to city, and you know, we all change our messages and we do all this different stuff, and every week you come out with the same old thing. How come? And your dad, just in his own way, said, you know, two simple reasons. Number one, the people in this city haven't heard this message, and they need to. And he said, well, what's the second? He said, well, I teach truth, and truth never changes. Whew, what a lesson right there.
That is the truth. That's the truth right there.
I mean, that was such a powerful lesson in just watching that exchange. And I know I've said it to you many times. I never knew how much impact your dad had on me until later. And then all of a sudden you start to realize. And, you know, some of his quotes, he's got so many great quotes, my goodness, you know, but they're all so, I mean, to this day, they live on. They are, you know, some may say they're common sense, but as we all know, common sense isn't so common anymore. You know, so I mean, it's fascinating how the ripple continues, you know, years later. Phenomenal.
You know, Scott, I can hear that in your voice and see it as you describe that. And I think one of the reasons that it's impacted you is the example of that is on our wall of gratitude. And you've seen it 1,000 times at our office. The men and women who poured into Dad that allowed him to become the person he is. And so when you encounter somebody like a Zig Ziglar who has that humility to know that it was other people taking time to pour into him, when you see that humility, it changes it, right? It allows you to embrace that humility, which then makes what you say more powerful to everybody else. You know, I had a breakfast with Dr. Ken Blanchard, and he said to me, he said, Tom, do you know what the two most important leadership qualities are? I said, what? He said, confidence and humility. He said, the confidence to know there's nothing you can't do with Christ, and the humility to know there's nothing you can do without Christ. And so what you saw in Zig Ziglar was this ultimate, this humble, confident person from the front of the room who'd be the first to admit, I don't have all the answers. But there's a few things that I do know that I know that if you buy into these ideas, it'll change your life. And because of that combination of confidence and humility, people wanted to know more. And that's literally how millions of lives have been impacted.
Well, and that in itself is just such a great lesson, to be able to pass along. It's not the hey, look at me stuff and all that crud. I mean, it used to be fascinating, and I'm just thinking now. Somebody said to me yesterday, or we were on a Zoom training, and I was taking notes, and they said to the other folks, Scott's taking notes. Don't you think maybe you should? And it never occurred to me not to take notes. And that's kind of the way your dad was. I remember him just passionately taking notes and studying and learning and observing, and just so that he could share those things.
Yeah. So Scott, tell the truth. When you presented a devotional and he started taking notes, how did that make you feel?
Just that you talk about value, worth, that he felt that there was something that I might say that would be of value to him and or others, and that he wanted to commit to potentially transferring that information as well. How does it get better than that?
I remember when he would get a nugget from somebody at the end of the meeting, he'd always say, he'd read it back. Hey, you said this. This is powerful. And then he would laugh and say, you know what? Soon this will be a Zig Ziglar original. And everybody in the room would laugh. And the reason it was such a great bit of humor is because nobody was more adamant about quoting the source than Zig Ziglar, right? And so it was funny, but they knew he was, if he used it, he would quote him, because that's just the way he was wired.
Well, and it's exactly the way it should be. Being fortunate enough to do so many live events and be around so many amazing speakers and trainers, they crafted this, this statement, this whatever. It's their idea. Give them credit for their idea. I totally agree with that. And it's funny. I remember a while back, geez, it's just funny how things pop into your head. I was about to promote something, and I actually had a number of different memes, pictures of your dad and some of his quotes. And somebody, I was showing them to them, and they said, while Zig's awesome, you got a couple good ones yourself. And I said, I do? And they said, yeah, how come you're not using yours? And I said, well, I never thought about it. And so I started over time utilizing some of that and still incorporating the others as well. But a tribute to whomever's quote it was. You don't take their quotes.
Right.
You make sure that they know. One thing, again, with this being your dad's 94th birthday in heaven, I come back to the latest book that I wrote, That Sucks, What Now? Real World Solutions for Getting Through What You're Going Through. And I figured out after I finished writing the book, the theme of the book, and I know you'll recognize it, it's all things work together for my good. Not that all things are good, not that all things are easy, but all things work together for my good. Wonder where that influence came from.
Yeah, of course we know that was Dad's life verse, Romans 8:28. And what's interesting is I've known that my whole life, and then I read Ronald Reagan's. It was a bio. It wasn't an autobiography. It was a biography one done on him. That was his life verse as well.
Wow.
And so that seems to be a pretty good verse to grab a hold of. So
yeah, That's a good foundational piece to kind of settle in on here. How do people get a hold of you? How can they get the book and some things? I know you got a special for your dad's birthday. How do they get a hold of it from you?
Yeah, so the birthday special, you just go to Ziglar.com and you can find it there. Another way is to go to the Zig Ziglar Facebook fan page. You'll fit in with the other 5 million people, and you'll see everything there. And if you want to reach me directly for some reason, I'm one of these weird guys, Scott. I give my email out. It's Ziglar or Tom at Ziglar.com. Tom at Ziglar.com.
Tom at Ziglar.com. Tom, it's always fun. We could keep this going all day, but again, just really appreciate you coming on. Appreciate everything that you're doing at Ziglar Corporation. Certainly appreciate everything your dad shared with me along the way. And
Amen.
One last nugget for everybody. You got one?
Dad said this. He said, "You are what you are and where you are because of what's gone into your mind. You can change where you are and what you are by changing what goes into your mind." That was the number one lesson I learned from Dad, is we get to choose our input. And so watching a series like this that Scott puts on, that's the best thing you can do, because when you change what you put into your mind, it changes your future.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for being here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Scott Schilling signing off from Scott Schilling Speaks. See you again next week.
These are the lifeblood to grow your business, but current times have made quality connections hard to find, if not impossible. This is why Be Connected created the Connection Generator, a highly sophisticated, powerful search engine algorithm that will completely revolutionize the way you network and accelerate your results. Now you can experience the Connection Generator for free. Once set up, instantly the Connection Generator delivers the right people for your business using its proprietary artificial intelligence matchmaking technology. Think of it like dating software, but for the business world. We just changed the questions. Instant messaging, multiple ways to connect, and a 5-star user-generated rating system creates an experience that eliminates spam and wasted effort without ever leaving your home or office. During your free trial, you'll see the Connection Generator is super simple to use. In fact, people from all backgrounds and industries, from CEOs to entrepreneurs to work-at-home moms, use the Connection Generator to find their ultimate business connections. When you sign up for your free trial offer, you'll discover the Connection Generator scans industry, geographic location, and even target audiences to match you to the very best of the best, to include highly successful leaders just like you. So if you're ready to start leveraging technology, you're just a click away from activating your free trial and instantly connecting to exact matches just for you. Once you're a member, best of all, we can show you how to qualify for free continuing membership. It's our way of saying thanks for being a part of Be Connected. So what are you waiting for? Click now and get started today for free.